holy shit, this is Bruce Kulick. This is the dude from Union. This is important. Hi, I'm Greg. I'm the lead singer from Lipstick.
I'm Steve. I'm the bassist.
And today on the Lipstick panel, we're actually doing something topical, which is really weird for us. This one won't come out in a timely manner, but we're recording it on the, 30th or 40th? 20th?
Oh, sorry. Well, which day is it? This one came out in 1980, so it would be the 38th?
Sure. The 38th anniversary of the Kiss album, Unmasked, which Steve was upset with because it didn't show him a picture of Kiss without makeup. Me handing him the CD for the first time, he's like, what? The makeup is still on for this album? He felt ripped off like everyone else in 1980. Our guest today, Mr. Julian Gill, quite possibly felt ripped off when this album came off. Julian, did you feel ripped off when you first heard the album and you didn't see a picture of them without makeup?
No, I just felt very, very confused.
As to why they would name the album that?
Well, you look at the comic.
That and the music.
They've got the comic where they take their masks off and reveal their makeup underneath it, right?
Right. Turns out they're always Kiss.
Which is a fairly clever troll.
Yeah, I mean, I respect it.
Although, aren't you the same one who was upset when you discovered that they recorded without their makeup on? So you're like, what? That's not the real them! How dare they?
Yeah, I mean, I got upset with that because I recorded the Lipstick stuff, at least the first couple songs with the full outfit. And then Billy Morris was like, dude, this isn't making any difference, just chill out. I'm like, alright, fine.
And I made you take off your shoes for the second album because wood floors, we didn't want a bunch of clop in the background.
That's fair. I actually don't remember that, but I trust you that happened.
I might have just put a carpet under you.
Maybe. I gotta record in my rock boots, man, otherwise I don't feel like I can rock.
Otherwise you can't reach the microphone.
Yeah.
Hey-o, short jokes already.
I'm a short guy. Julian, you can relate being short. Do you enjoy wearing boots to feel taller?
Nope, don't do it. I am what I am.
Nice.
I am what I am, but I don't feel like I look good in tennies. I wear them for practical purposes, like I gotta jog or my boots are under repair. But I don't know. I need that extra height. So Unmasked, this album, I feel we've been avoiding talking about it in our pre-show banter because I think everyone feels kind of meh on this one.
We're about to spend an hour and a half talking about it anyway. Why jump the gun?
Yeah, but let's talk about our general thoughts on the album. Let's start with our esteemed guest, Julian Gill, creator of the greatest Kiss website of all time, KissFAQ. What are your thoughts on Unmasked?
Pretty mediocre. Pretty downhill from the previous album. Again, when I got into this album, I bought it on cassette, so it took me many years to actually get a copy of it that I could actually read the comic on the front. So I didn't really get it, what they were going on about on that cover for many years. Played it a couple times, put it away. That was it. It didn't even make it onto any of my mixtapes.
Yeah, this one really is, I would say, out of all the Kiss albums, the one that the cover art is lost the most upon different transformations to other media. Like, as a vinyl record where you can actually fully read the comic, it makes sense.
It is pretty tiny in the CD.
But yeah, it's pretty tiny in the CD, and just, I can't even imagine how terrible it is as a cassette. So, this is one of my least listened to Kiss albums. As far as the overall discography, I rank it pretty low, but there's still, it's one of those albums I revisited pretty recently and grew to like pretty much every song on the album except for one where I'm like, yeah, I can see myself being in the mood for this song or this song. And there's a couple I've liked for years, but in the grand scheme of things and the overall catalog, it's one of the weaker ones, but I'm very glad it exists. I think this is really important to my overall appreciation of Kiss is how often they change sonically. And so by itself, Unmasked isn't necessarily that great, but when you look at it as part of the gumbo that contains Carnival of Souls, The Elder, Dynasty, The Classic Six, Creatures of the Night, it's fun because it's another example of Kiss stretching themselves musically and doing something different, which is refreshing. How about you, Steve?
I kind of feel like between this album and the previous one, Kiss has really sort of hit their stride. I like them doing, pop rock like this.
So you think this is? Would you say you like Dynasty and Unmasked more than the first 6 albums?
Yeah.
Oh dang!
They started to really know what they were doing in terms of like making a decent album at the Gene Simmons solo album, and have sort of kept it up since then. For the most part. I mean, there's still obviously highs and lows, and there's a lot of stuff that I'm like, all right, this is still just a mediocre Kiss song.
Yeah, Steve is definitely the heel of this podcast.
It's true. I'm the villain. There's probably a drop for that somewhere.
Right. Oh yeah, we have drops now. Steve,
right?
Play us a drop for the lovely folks at home.
Hindsight is always 2020.
I panicked.
Yep. So, welcoming to the first episode of the program with drops. Julian is our unfortunate guinea pig, having to react to these in real time. Basically, I realized Steve is just kind of sitting there bored a lot of the time, just waiting for snarky jokes.
It's true.
So I just gave him snarky joke buttons.
So this is a clever strategy, because this means that instead of fiddling with whatever's on my desk, I have my fingers hovered over the keyboard, ready to like, I don't know, mash the greasy pleasure button or something.
Rolling with greasy pleasure.
And so I'm making less background noise.
All right. So yeah, just anytime. Give us a good one, Steve.
All right then.
This
is a lot less appropriate on a non-Final Fantasy episode, but
yeah, that's really just to enrage Joe and Caleb next time they come on. All right.
I'm in the most annoying sounds folder right now.
All right, you ready to get into this ranking, Julian?
Let's give it a shot.
All right, coming in as the least best song from Kiss Unmasked with makeup and Anton Fig on drums. The entire album, You're All That I Want. Julian, you and I both were correct in placing this as the last place song. Why don't you talk about how right we are?
I didn't like it when I first heard it. I didn't like it yesterday. I didn't like it when I listened to it today. I hate this song with a passion. It is just so syrupy. It is right up there in terms of the worst Kiss songs with Read My Body.
Whoa, first off, Read My Body is a magnum opus and a classic, sir. How dare you? Second, yes, this song is kind of shitty. Basically, I get what Gene was going for. He's like, man, I really like Free and Bad Company, and I want to write a sexy Paul Rogers song. But he did not succeed at all, is the problem. It's just boring. There's not a good melody. There's not really good guitar hooks. It's just kind of there. And this album would have been much better off without it. Like, there's nothing that grabs me about the song. Not a good hook, not a, amazing vocal, not, badass ripping guitars. It's just kind of there and kind of dull. Steve, you ranked it the highest. Why are you wrong?
I mean, I ranked it third from the bottom. This one was one that just sort of seemed kind of middling to me. Of all the middling songs on this album, I ranked this one the lowest because I just didn't buy it as a Gene song. Like, this seems like he's going for the heartfelt love, like, you're the only girl that I want in the world kind of thing, that is more Paul's wheelhouse, whereas Gene sings about butts, and I think he's lying when he sings about true love. Until, like, the second verse, there was that lyric, you need to feel my love inside, which we all know, every time this band says the word love, they mean penis. So that's, that's a Gene lyric right there.
Yeah, but song's so boring. Like, there's just it's the X-ray eyes of this album where there's just nothing interesting about it, and it's like, why is this even on here? I wish there would have been a single Peter cut on this album. I know he was basically out of the band at that point, but man, what I wouldn't give to trade this song for one Peter song would have made this album so much better, in my opinion. But yeah, I think that's all we have to say about it, because the song sucks. I'm done talking about this crappy song.
Oh, I got that one somewhere. Yep.
All right, I'm done talking about this crappy song. Yeah, you have a drop of myself. You know how confusing that's going to be?
Especially when I do this.
All right.
Greg with delay.
This is what happens when I give him power. All right, next up on the list, She's So European. Okay, so here's
that excited, huh? I need a crickets drop.
Yeah. So the thing with this song is that I see a lot of Kiss fans defending it, and I don't know why. They're like, She's So European is a cool tune. And I'm like, is it? Is it though?
Is it?
Like, this is one where the sum of the parts is just does not equal a great whole. This I like the keyboard riff in the pre-chorus. That's pretty cool.
I like the bass line.
Yeah, and that's about it. I don't like the chorus. Yeah, really, it's that one keyboard riff is kind of cool. Otherwise, kind of a throwaway tune for me. Julian, what are your thoughts on this one?
You know, demographically, the Demon is playing in the wrong field on this song. And musically, it's a good track, as you both mentioned. You know, the bass line musically. But who the hell is he singing to? What does he think Kiss fans are? She speaks French to the waiters, pink champagne, hors d'oeuvres. I mean, come on. That is just not Kiss. That is nothing that most of the people who listen to Kiss relates to. So I think he was way off base, and it's kind of reflective of where he was going personally at the time. He was starting to broaden his horizons and get into higher end actresses and musicians, but completely delusional song. It doesn't belong on a Kiss album.
Just completely losing touch with the bass. Like, yeah, all of our fans are totally banging world-traveling actresses, right?
While drinking pink champagne and eating hors d'oeuvres.
Yeah, totally. So I don't necessarily mind. Man, I don't necessarily mind it lyrically. I just wish the chorus hook was better. That is just such a weak chorus. Like, the verses are fine, and I guess that intro riff is okay, but man, it's just a super weak, super lazy chorus. Just, I don't understand why my friends in Kiss cover bands are all about playing this song. They're like, yeah, let's play She's So European. I'm like, why? So many other songs you can pick from. You chose She's So European on the same album with Tomorrow? Get out of here. You're just doing it because you needed to pick a Gene song from this album, and that's the one you picked. I don't know. This one, I found myself enjoying it every now and then. So it's not like You're All That I Want, where I've never once enjoyed the song. But just overall pretty weak for me. But next up on our list, song I don't think is weak, but you guys apparently do, because you hate Australia. You guys hate Australia because you put Shandy this low on the list.
Yep.
This was my number 2 song, so you guys just, really hate the land down under. Why do you hate Australia so much, guys?
What does this have to do with Australia?
It's a massive hit in Australia.
Oh.
So usually I say you hate America, but in this case you hate Australia.
Sure, I guess so.
You guys just hate reasonable gun laws and better minimum wage.
In 1980?
That's fair.
I mean, if I wanted to listen to, like, Glass Tiger, I'd listen to Glass Tiger. I would not listen to Kiss doing generic 80s pop.
But it's such a good song.
It's such an okay 80s pop song.
I will say this is one of the songs where the production may have hurt it a little bit. Hearing Paul Stanley just play this on an acoustic guitar by himself sounds better than this full-on recording. So I think it's the case where, the song got a little bit lost in the production, but I think it's still a great song. I think it shows that Paul Stanley is a very competent, great songwriter. I think vocally he hadn't quite found his ballad voice yet, but this is a solid, great tune. I love it.
If only they'd had Peter sing this one.
Would have been much better.
Right.
I'm going to say that right now. This would have been great if Peter had sung it. Julian, what are your thoughts on Shandy? You ranked it pretty low.
Yeah, this was second from bottom on mine. And, It just does not work. Everything we said about kind of "You're All That I Want" kind of applies to Paul on this one. It's just so weak. It's so syrupy. It's the wrong sort of ballad. He did fantastically on the previous album with "Sure Knows Something." You go from that to this. I mean, there's a stark contrast between the two. It's just, it's not the right sort of song. It's one he should have given to some other band to do, and maybe he would have done better with someone else performing it than, the guy who wears the star, the lover. It just does not work. And, I don't care that it's a hit. Whenever it's on, live shows, it just kills the set at that point for me. He always comes out and does it on his own with his acoustic electric guitar. And it's just become so predictable and almost laughable at this point that I dread them returning to Australia, because I know that that's going to be their token song for the Aussies.
See, I think it works, though. I think this is just a very solid, strong pop tune. It is weird in a Kiss live set. Like watching that tour from Australia in 1980 where they played Shandy. It is awkward and out of place. But, I mean, this is very close to a Beatles-y kind of song. And I think it's a lot more successful than a lot of other Paul ballads. I don't think it's better than Sure Know Something, but it's better than his ballads on the 78 solo. And I think it shows that he's getting the hang of writing a good ballad. Is it as good as Sure Know Something? Absolutely not, but I think it's a very capable song, and I'm very glad that Kiss recorded it. This is something I would call a highlight of the album, hence why I voted it so high.
So, I've got a conspiracy theory. If this song kills the set when they play it live, that's when everybody takes a moment to leave their seats to go get some alcohol! And Shandy is definitely the name of a beer. Dun, dun, dun. They're trying to sell beer to the kids of Australia. Whoa.
I do agree with the point that it is better than Hold Me, Touch Me on Paul's solo album. That is absolutely, yeah, I agree.
Well, because that song, there's no presence of genitalia anywhere in that song. At least here, you can feel the presence of a vagina. But, on Hold Me, Touch Me, there's no balls, there's no vagina, it's just...
I need some balls!
I don't even know what that's from. I just have a wave file that says I need some balls.
That's Eddie Trunk talking about Bruce Springsteen's band and how he doesn't like the guitar tone. Just seemed like a good drop to have at any time.
All right.
It's never too late to learn how to kick ass.
I thought that one was just going to say kick ass. I didn't realize there was a bunch more.
I mean, but hey, it worked well. Any other thoughts on Shandy before we move on? Nope. All right. Next up on the list, Torpedo
I'm
Girl.
done talking about this crappy song.
Damn it, Steve.
I was already in that folder.
Although I will say this, with drops, probably the more aggressive you are, the better. the more awkwardly placed, the funnier they are. That's what I've learned with drops. All right, so Torpedo Girl. Thoughts on this one? We have Ronald Reagan appearing on the track, which is nice. Get Kiss getting a little presidential.
Reagan was in this somewhere?
The beginning, calling battle stations torpedoes. That's Ronald Reagan. Ronnie.
He is not listed on the Wikipedia.
Yeah,
I bet they didn't clear that sample.
Probably not. So, Julian, what are your thoughts on Torpedo Girl? You're a man of the world. Have you ever been hanging out swimming and then just a torpedo shows up out of nowhere?
I have not, oddly. So, I obviously have not been to Jendel. Ace does hang out in the strangest places, so God knows where he got the inspiration for this. I think it probably did involve some illicit substances, and it kind of screams Crazy Joe Renda to me.
One of the things I like most about this song is what a troll it had to be for Gene and Paul that this ended up on the record. Ace was so popular, he could put a song like Torpedo Girl on a Kiss album and it would make the cut with the producer. That is such a joy. And so that by itself gives it points. But it's fun as like a weird left turn, cool bass line, cool guitar parts, just all kinds of ridiculous. I like it. This is fun. This is one of the songs I recommended to Steve when he was like, I'm looking for a Kiss song for my weird nerd glitch punk band to do. And I recommended this one, like, oh, here's a troll song.
There were a lot of things going against this song when I first listened to it. So I borrowed Greg's copy of the CD and put it in my CD player and pressed play, and it got to this song and it spun for a second. I was like, nope, skipped to the next one. Tried it again. I was like, no, I'm just not going to play Torpedo Girl. Also, it's called Torpedo Girl and it's by Kiss. So, like, you know exactly what it's about going into it. But then I, like, queued it up on YouTube instead and was like, oh, that bass line is really good, though. I like that a lot. All right, we're going to put it in the upper mids. Fine.
Now, Julian, this is Ace playing bass on the track, right?
Yeah, that's right. And just going back to something that was said a moment ago, just think, they put Torpedo Girl on. What sort of material of Gene's did they leave off this album, particularly when they did include that You're All That I Want as well? It really does beg the question of what sort of material they were digging through.
So here's the question. You have the vault. Was there anything good from Gene from 1980?
Yeah, there was actually, but would it have fit on this album? No. It was good, but in an un-Kiss-like way.
But this is a pretty un-Kiss-like album. Like, what would it have mattered at this point? Like this?
No, it was definitely, it would not have fit on this, no matter what.
Oh dang! So what would you say it sounds like?
The stuff from Gene on the Vault. I mean,
from this era, like
from this era. I mean, he's like trying to be Paul Stanley doing disco the year before, in some sense.
Well, see,
and he's writing with Stephen Bishop, I think, as well. So coming from that area, yeah, it's just that
would have fit because you have some of the more dancing songs like "Easy as It Seems," "What Makes the World Go Round." So if Gene had a disco-y sounding song, I think that would have fit on this album. As a follow-up to Dynasty.
Yeah, some of it might. I mean, who knows? The problem with all the stuff on the Vault, especially when you're starting to try and figure out where you could prize it into an album like Unmasked, is that, only had it for a few months and 165 songs, still trying to digest it. It's still not easily able to, reference that sort of music on off the tip of my tongue.
6 months from now, when we do the Vault episode, it's going to be a nightmare.
I don't think we're gonna do the Vault episode. I don't know if I want to do the Vault episode. I've heard bits and pieces and like, oh, there's like 20 really good tracks here of the 120. So it's too much. I don't know if I'm ready to dig into that monster. But yeah, Torpedo Girl, it is a song. Next on the list, Talk to Me. So this was one of my favorites off the album in high school. I thought this was very cool. It was very Beatles-esque, Beach Boys-esque. The vocals weren't nearly as good, but it was a great throwback to the Beatles, Beach Boys, Rolling Stones. Like a lot of good pop ingredients mixed together in an Ace tune. I like it a lot, but maybe this one I've gotten a little bit of anti-Stockholm Syndrome with, where I liked it a lot when I first heard it, and then everyone around me hates it, and so then I like it less. I'm like, oh, this song sucks, this is the worst, why do you like it? And I'm like, no, it's good, but enough people have told me it sucks for years where I'm like, maybe it does suck.
Maybe those people are right, Greg.
But I don't know, I still think it's a fun tune, I like it. Very poppy, very cute, very high school romance. I dig it. I like the lyrics on this one a lot.
I put this one second from the bottom. This is the only
one. You
one.
just hate Ace Frehley.
It's true. That is basically it. I generally don't like Ace Frehley, and this song is sort of peak Ace being mediocre. Like the arrangement is better than his songs on the previous album, where like everybody else was singing way down low in order to not outshine him. But this one, they're much more like everybody else in the band. You're the pretty lady choir of the band. Ace, you sing low, everybody else sing the high parts, and it works much better, but it's still just well, I'll discuss this more later in the album, but he didn't do a great job with this one.
So Julian, your thoughts on this, according to the votes, are closer to mine than Steve's. What are your thoughts on Talk to Me?
Musically, I love it, and for the most part, lyrically, it's fine. But it always feels like a song that really could have used a co-writer just to help him tighten up the lyrics and maybe work on that chorus a bit. The chorus is weak. All I want is a little conversation.
Oh, I love that.
See, I don't. That's the part that really kind of lets it down for me. But the music, the solo, everything else is great. I don't think it's as good as his stuff on the previous album. I think there's less kind of craft work going into what he's doing on this. Yet, it's one I would love to see him perform live when he heads back around my way. So, it's kind of a, contradiction to me.
I think with a lot of these podcast episodes, as Steve and I go through these albums of different bands and Kiss, sometimes I'm coming off, I think, on a lot of these from too much of a critical standpoint, where I'm being too hard on the songs, where at the end of the day, do I like the song? Do I enjoy listening to it? The answer is a resounding yes. I get a lot of joy out of the song. It makes me happy. And so it succeeds as a fun piece of music. Next up on the list, we have Naked
All right,
City.
I'm done talking about this crappy
Damn it, Steve.
song.
All right. Next up on the list is Naked City. So this is a song I didn't like until very recently. I just thought it was another boring song on Unmasked, and I put in the same category as You're All That I Want. But digging deeper into it, there's a lot of cool stuff going on here. Cool chord choices, like a lot of interesting instrumentation, very dark and edgy lyrics from Gene. This is a cool cut. This is something I didn't appreciate because of how poppy the production is on the album, but this is a pretty badass tune. I like it a lot. What do you think, Steve?
I put it pretty well in the middle. I found it a largely uneventful song, but that synchronized fuzz guitar and bass in the beginning, I like the sound of that a lot. I guess it's not just the beginning. They use that in the beginning a couple times throughout, but that was a really good part, and I thought that was a good touch that, put this solidly in the middle of this album rather than dumped at the bottom somewhere.
Yeah, and Julian, you ranked it the highest out of all of us, so clearly you have a good opinion of this tune.
Yeah, I have just always liked this song. I mean, I like kind of where he's coming from lyrically. Well, I don't know if it's him, but where the writers come from musically, absolutely fabulous. This is the one I still want to hear live. This is the one that I'm most disappointed was not on the vault as a demo. In fact, I'm dreadfully upset that it wasn't, because Bob has said that Ace completely screwed up the guitar work on the song and couldn't nail his phrasing or something to that effect. Couldn't do the guitar as originally intended. So I was really hoping to see it. But this one I will never skip. It's right up there at the top of my favorite songs on the album, and it is my favorite Gene track off this album.
Yeah, I actually asked Bob Kulick about that when I was interviewing him. He's like, hey, so what do you mean exactly when Ace didn't play it the way you intended? And he, very much wanted to make sure he wasn't ragging on Ace as a player and just said, look, I just played it differently and I liked the way I played it better. He played it in a different way and I think it wasn't the best for the material. So I would be interested in hearing how Bob prefers it to be played. It would be interesting to hear that version, but as it stands, it's a cool cut. Lyrically, it does feel very weird coming from Gene. This one feels a little bit more like a Paul song where it's a lot more vulnerable than Gene usually is. So this is an album of vulnerable, high society Gene Simmons, which is just, I don't think what anyone wants from Gene.
Gene's afraid of getting his feelings hurt by Uptown Girl.
Yeah, it's I love when Gene gets all Beatlesy. I love a lot of his cuts from his solo album like Mr. Make Believe and Man of a Thousand Faces. And so I totally buy into that, but it is a lot harder to buy the vulnerable, nervous about society Gene Simmons. Like that is difficult for me to accept as a listener. but I feel like there has to be some level of truth to it because otherwise he wouldn't do songs like that. That's sort of what I think. Like maybe this is the true Gene Simmons, and the stuff on all the other albums is him just posturing. But maybe this is how he really thinks and feels.
Exactly, and what I was saying about She's So European with the champagne and the hors d'oeuvres and everything, that sort of stuff in this song works. I mean, he's talking about street vampires, flesh and fantasy, older women and younger men. I mean, all of that seems to relate much better to him as a character and a personality. And yeah, we're in a little bit of trouble these days, or even in the mid 80s when I first heard it, because we know so much more about Gene than someone in 1980 perhaps did. So, all that stuff he's singing about millionaires, lonely people, and lonely stairs works better in this song than the similar sorts of stuff in She's So European for me.
So wait, predatory older women going after younger men. Is this song Chris 6 then?
What?
Like Christine 16, but Chris 6?
Oh, Chris 6.
Where's my crickets?
Yeah, I didn't get you a cricket drop.
Somebody thinks my jokes are funny.
That's all right. So Steve, that's the drop you use when a joke completely bombs. You use that. That is what you do.
Still ironing out the kinks.
Right. All right. So that was Naked City. Moving on. We have Easy As It
All right,
Seems.
I'm done talking about this crappy song.
We have Easy As It Seems next on the list. All right. This is another song. Sort of rediscovered it recently. It's a solid Paul Stanley tune, and Paul Stanley usually writes good songs, and so even on an album of his weaker material, he's still going to bring you a good tune. It's a well-performed, well-written song, nice keyboard solo in it, cool bass line, some nice big bass pounding up your wazoo. I can see this as sort of a kind of a follow-up to I Was Made for Loving You in a way. It wasn't obviously a big single or anything, but I can see musically where it might have been a little bit of a follow-up.
Because of the synths?
The synths and the bass and how it's a little bit danceable. Paul Stanley was writing stuff you could, shake your butt to at this time. So I don't know. I think it's a pretty cool song. I think I heard a cover of this years ago that was a little bit heavier, sounding kind of like an 80s hair band doing the song. And I think the song benefits from being a little bit heavier, as I think a lot of the material on the album probably does, but it's still a cool tune. Steve, what do you think of this one?
I thought it was pretty middling. I gave it a bonus point for the synth. That was a good production touch to make it stand out a little bit. But otherwise, it was a fairly middling, decent Kiss song.
How about you, Julian?
I wonder if Paul wrote this on bass. I mean, I believe it is Paul playing the bass line on this, and that's the part that's always drawn me to it. It's got a great kind of swagger to it. Is it danceable? I don't know. I'm not a dancer, but no one wants to see me dance. I look like I'm having a seizure. It's just fun. It's Paul Stanley stepping out of kind of normal Paul Stanley, doing something stylistically surprising and different than what you'd expect from him. He's not going to just get pigeonholed into doing one type of music. He's not afraid, and that's why I rank it so high.
So, Steve, who's your favorite bassist in Kiss thus far?
Wait, who else has been playing bass?
Paul and Ace.
Oh, I guess we've sort of discussed this before. I sort of identify with Gene on a bassist level, where he wants to play more interesting parts, and he has to serve the song most of the time. But then live, he gets bored and does what he wants to instead. I think he's a good bassist.
All right, there you have it. It's official. Gene Simmons is a good bassist, according to Steve.
I also think Sid Vicious is a good bassist, so, I may not be the best judge of these things.
I think you got to press a button right now.
Yeah. That is... What's great... We're using that one so much in this episode, and I guarantee you most of the Kiss fans don't know what that's from.
It's distinctly possible.
All right. Next up on the list, What Makes the World Go Round. Once again, another danceable Paul Stanley song. like that chorus, that's straight up an R&B dance chorus. It's, I mean, pretty much all the things you could say about the last song, you can kind of say about this one. You know, good bass playing, good groove, good chorus, danceable. You know, it doesn't have as much synth as the other tune, obviously, but this is still, you know, another solid Paul song. What's the thing? Paul will bring like 5 good songs to the table. Gene will bring like 20 songs, and like 3 of them will be good. You know what? Like, Paul's a pro. He's going to bring in solid songs. Is this necessarily the best Kiss song ever? No, but it's still a good tune. Paul Stanley, you know, he does good work. Julian, what are your thoughts on this one?
I'll leave it at 2 words: pop perfection.
Oh yeah, you put it in the number 1 spot. Dang.
Whoa.
Yeah,
So-
it's my favorite on the album. It has been from the first time I've heard it. Again, it's just a really well crafted song. It's Paul Stanley at his height. You know, I would love to hear the demo of it without Poncia's production, you know, kind of neutering it somewhat, just to hear it with a little bit more rough edge, because, you know, just a contrast where it went once Vinny was really behind the board. But it's just a great pop song, and it really does speak to where the band were trying to go with Unmasked, and that was to break out of the rock kind of, you know.
So you're saying you want like a little bit heavier, grittier production, more masculine, aggressive. You know, what's the expression you would say for that?
I need some balls.
There we go. That's it.
Exactly.
You're just gonna, how long were you going to keep that up if I didn't hit the button, Greg?
I was gonna just keep going.
All right, I'm done talking about this crappy song.
I mean, are we though? Do you have anything to say about it?
No, I actually do have stuff to say about this one. I actually have a question. Poncia is cited as a co-writer on like more than half of this album. How much of this was actually his writing, and how much of it was the band?
That's a good question. That's why he remains on my list to be interviewed. You know, Poncia was a song guy. Going back to the 60s and all the stuff that he touched with, he was very much the craftsman who could just change a word here or tweak an arrangement to make something special. You know, take something wonderful and just make it superlative.
So I was pretty disappointed with this song in particular, and most of the album up through this point, in that I had liked the direction Poncia had taken them in a lot on the previous one, but by the time this song rolled around, I felt like all of his songs had been pretty weak. Like, in this one, like my 4th from the bottom. I didn't feel like he'd done a very good job of this one.
I feel like a lot of it is, I think, less the songwriting and more the production. I think the songs just, they're lacking, I think, in energy on a lot of them. And it just feels like, you know, it should be just a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more in your face. I feel it's a little bit too polished, and it doesn't succeed in the way that Crazy Nights later down the line, I think, does succeed in being a polished record. I think this is polished, but it doesn't benefit the material. So Crazy Nights is polished, but that works for the songs. I don't think that works for a lot of the songs in here. I think a lot of the songs are weaker due to how polished the production is. So this song, you know, you give it the production of Love Gun, and, you know, this is potentially an all-time Kiss classic at that point.
It does follow their classic pattern of excluding random letters.
That is true. But I think it's a great lost classic. I do rank, you know, I do have my ranking of the album, and in my opinion, I think all of the Ace songs are stronger than this one. But, you know, that's my personal preference. And also, according to the list, this Ace song is stronger than that. Two Sides of the Coin is next.
All right, we are hovering over the chair jar, Greg.
I'm not saying anything. I'm playing nice.
All right.
You know, I'm not going to say anything about other podcasts that may have said things about us.
Careful.
So Two Sides of the Coin, cool tune. Good vocals by Ace. I think Steve was pleasantly surprised in this one.
Yeah, I was saying, Ace does good work when he's getting out of his comfort zone vocally. Most of his songs he just writes for his comfortable range, and it ends up being bland. Whereas as the Stones cover on the last one demonstrated, if he pushes his range, he actually starts to sound pretty good and gets, that sort of grit and breakup enhances the songs a lot, adds emotion and interest to them. So I put this one third. If he's willing to push himself vocally, he writes good songs.
I will say this is the weakest lyrically of the Ace songs. And I know that's weird on the same album with Torpedo Girl, but Torpedo Girl was funny on purpose. The lyrics in this one are funny by accident. Like, hey, I'm not good at writing lyrics. Here's the song. It's like the verses are pretty pedestrian lyrically, but once again, from a pure emotional standpoint, the song makes me smile. I enjoy listening to it. I enjoy listening to all the Ace songs on this album, and this is of the 3 Ace songs, this is my second place one. I like Talk to Me better, but hey, it's still a cool tune. Julian, I think you ranked this one the lowest out of all of us. What are your thoughts on Two Sides of the Coin?
Lyrically, this one leaves me banging my head against a wall.
You got to include the against the wall. You got to include the against the wall. Otherwise, it's a really positive thing to say.
Right. The song just leaves me banging my head. Yeah.
I love these lyrics.
Two sides of the coin. Open up the pit.
Words.
Yeah, I don't see the pit working, You meet them this place and then meet them there. Then you decide to pick a mate because you're tired of all those dates. No,
that is a pretty bad lyric.
Even 14-year-old me could not handle, I've met some ladies and then some girls, but they don't tell you, they just want to whirl. I mean, for God's sake, Ace, could you not have co-written something with Paul on this, or with Vinny, or with Peter?
Here's the trick.
With Peter.
I think the only good lyricist of the original 4 Kiss members is Paul Stanley. I think the rest of them all have those embarrassing, cringeworthy lyrics, and Paul has a couple of them, but overall, he's the one who's like, yeah, I'm going to actually make my lyrics somewhat decent and clever. But the rest of those guys, they could afford to have hung out with Phil Lynott and taken some lessons.
I mean, I just wonder who, Ace is communicating with when he's writing stuff like this sometimes. I mean, okay, I need a word that rhymes with girls. Whirl. Okay, good. How do we get that in? Okay. All right. Dates. Mates. Okay, great. It just seems, musically, it's great. I mean, again, all of Ace's songs on this album musically are fine. I mean, are they progressions from where he was up in Dynasty? No. But I think they're on a par. So, again, for me, maybe I just don't get the Ace humor. Maybe I'm just bagging on him, expecting him to write something that he's not. But it just seems that it's as little effort went into it as possible. Here we've got a song. But again, this was better than something Gene brought to the table at the time. And that says it all.
So, is it possible that perhaps Ace Frehley in 1980 wasn't the most well-read, sophisticated individual with the largest vocabulary?
Yeah, he did surprisingly well then, didn't he?
Yeah. This is great, given what he had to work with. Rock and roll. There we go. Good. Steve, do you have any other comments on Two Sides of the Coin?
No, I thought this was one of the better Ace songs so far, like total.
Well, we're running out of Ace songs.
Well, all right then. This is one of the better Ace songs ever.
So, Steve, what are your thoughts on the lack of Peter presence on this album?
Honestly, I didn't really notice it. I don't tend to pay that close of attention to drums. I'm much like Greg, I'm a hooks guy, so I pay attention to the major hooks of a song, especially on early listens, and so I didn't notice the drums shifting substantially, and I have Peter's contributions songwriting wise were always fairly minimal, so it's not a huge difference to notice it being gone.
What did you think, Julian, about the lack of Peter presence for the first time? Is it a noticeable gap for you?
No, as someone who didn't get into the band until 1985, I already knew that he wasn't a member of the band, so I never had the surprise of, say, like when I wrote a review of Psycho Circus saying how great Peter's drumming seemed to be. I didn't have that problem in 1980. So
Spoilers,
I wonder if
Julian.
Yep.
Yeah, this, I don't know, given how much of a Peter Criss fan I am, it does feel like this album is missing that chemistry that he brought to the band. Like, I think Dynasty, Dirty Living is one of the best cuts on Dynasty. And so just the lack of Peter presence, I think, does hurt this album a bit for me. And just because it's, being in between Peter Criss and Eric Carr. I mean, Anton Fig obviously does a good job as a studio musician, but he's not bringing, like, a new sense of chemistry to the band, so that's why this one always felt a little bit odd out. But yeah, Two Sides of the Coin. That is a song, and there is also a podcast that named
I'm done talking about this.
Yeah, there we go.
Song.
Moving on to the number 2 song on the list. Is That You? Coming in at number 2 on the list. Steve, you seem to like this one a lot.
I'm honestly a little surprised that the rest of you guys ranked this one as high as you did. I put this one at the top. I liked it. The distinct vibe I got from it was they were trying really hard to emulate Bowie, and they did a really good job of that. They wrote a really great knockoff Bowie song, except instead of being like weird and experimental and proggy, it was a catchy pop song done in the Bowie style, which really does a good job of bridging Bowie to just being listenable. Unfortunately, he tends to be a little bit too experimental and proggy at times, and Kiss, is having none of that. They're like, all right, let's do a song in his style, but, just catchy and accessible.
So I like how you're saying, Kiss doesn't do experimental and proggy. Get ready for the next one, dude.
Oh, good.
We've got The Elder after this.
Ooh, Elder's the next one?
Yeah, Elder is the next.
I'm excited
Damn
for that
straight,
one.
brother. But yeah, Is That You? The studio version of the song is kind of meh. It's the live version where it's up tempo and Eric Carr is playing at cocaine speeds. That's where this song really shines. But it's still a cool tune. It's a well performed cover. But once again, this could have used a little bit more grit, a little bit more masculinity. A little bit more, what's the expression I'm looking for?
No clue, Greg.
Damn it, Steve.
What is a man? A miserable little pile of secrets.
I'll take it.
Is that what you're going for?
I'll take it.
Whiffing on softballs.
All right, Julian, what are your thoughts on Is That You?
Great opening track. I mean, it was the sort of song that I wish Kiss had written, not bought from someone. And
Oh yeah, this is by the Cry Little Sister guy, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, Jared McMahon. So it's a fantastic opening track, and it's probably one of the better songs on the album. Except I never liked it live. I've never heard them do a good version of it. That makes me go back to the album and say, yeah, they nailed that one.
So you think they play it too fast live?
I don't know. I don't think I've heard a recording good enough to really give it its full due process.
So
it's not going to jail. Song's not on trial, Julian.
Oh, everything's on trial when it comes to Kiss. I mean, you sometimes wonder if people are going to be executed over these opinions, and kind of works.
I mean, they would have burned my house down months ago.
yeah, I mean, the fact that Steve, did you rank the Ace 78 solo album your least favorite of the 4?
Yeah, it was the suckiest.
Yeah, I mean that alone, would enrage the Kiss Army. Where it's like, yeah, 78 Ace album, not that great. So I mean that's who I'm working with here.
Yep.
But before we get to the number 1 song on the album, let's go through the list again. As the least best song on the album, we have "You're All That I Want." followed by She's So European, then Shandy, then Torpedo Girl, then Talk to Me, followed by Naked City, then Easy as It Seems, then What Makes the World Go Round, followed by Two Sides of the Coin, followed by Is That You, but the best song on Unmasked as voted by this panel is Tomorrow. Once again, I am not rigging these votes, but my number one song won, and I'm totally cool with that. And Steve, you can check the math to see that I'm not lying. You can look at those numbers.
You did email that to me.
Yeah, so you can't accuse me of hanging chads or anything like that.
Who's Chad?
I don't know, some guy who's hanging stuff.
I was Canadian when that election occurred, so I didn't vote.
You're also like 15?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, so Tomorrow, this is the first Kiss song that Lipstick ever covered.
Yep.
So, special place in my heart for that, but man, just a great written song. Awesome pop hook, super catchy. This is a song that, could have been a Beatles song in terms of catchiness and how it was written. I love it. It's very cute, which is not, the verbiage you often use to describe a Kiss song.
Didn't their cat just quit?
Yeah, the cat did just quit. But this is a great tune, and it's very disappointing to see that this song has been lost in the shuffle over the years. But, in Kiss Behind the Mask, Paul Stanley acknowledged this as a cool song, and I think he knows this is a great lost classic of the band. I just adore this song, and I don't really have anything bad to say about it. Steve, I assume you have something bad to say about it.
This was Tomorrow?
Yes.
No, I mean this is a pretty solid song. This is this is one of the ones I'm going to give all the credit to Vinny on this one. I assume that he wrote the good parts of it and took a mediocre Kiss demo and turned it into a valuable song. I rank this one second. Again, we covered it in Lipstick, and it was pretty good, and it's got some good vocal hooks, and overall a pretty solid song.
How about you, Julian? What are your thoughts on Tomorrow?
It's hard to add to anything that either of you have said because it is just pure pop perfection. If this was the first single from the album instead of Shandy in the US, maybe the album would have been given a better chance. So it's a fantastic song. I love it. It's one I would love them to do live.
Yeah, this is, I would say, if you had to make a list of the top 10 lost Kiss classics, 10 songs that never really got their due, I think this would be one of the ones on the list that I would definitely put. Strange Ways would be another one, and obviously Read My Body would be on the list as a great lost Kiss classic. Steve, we'll get to that one later. You'll be the tiebreaker between me and Julian on that one. But yeah,
I will read neither of your bodies. Thank you very much.
But yeah, this song makes me smile. A lot of the stuff on this album just makes me smile, puts me in a good mood. It's very lightweight. It's not heavy and aggressive. But you know what? I remember just one day in high school, just sitting around with a glass of milk and some sugar cookies listening to this album. I was in a pretty good mood. That's the kind of album this is. Get some sugar cookies and some milk and put on Unmasked.
I remember everything!
Yes, I do remember that. Well, yeah, it's kind of weird how this album didn't inspire that much discussion.
Yeah.
A lot of our other albums, we went off on a lot of tangents and had a lot more to say about the material, but this one is perhaps maybe the most straightforward in the catalog about what you can say about it. There's not much wiggle room. You know what I'm saying? You can't say oh, I noticed this really interesting thing here. Or, I completely disagree with you. It's yeah, it's just, here's a bunch of pop songs. They're all okay.
You have to look at the time that it was recorded as well when we do talk about this album. I mean, Peter's leaving the band. He's already technically gone. They're working with Anton. They've just signed, another deal with Phonogram. It was quite an extensive deal. And I think a lot of bands, when they've got that big check in the post and they're secure for a period, the pressure's off to a certain extent, and that kind of comes through. There's no urgency across the board in this material. There's a few very, very good songs, but for the most part, word have I heard a lot today? Middling. And that kind of sums up a lot of the album. So they were a band that were coasting. They hadn't, they're coming off Dynasty, which was massive worldwide, and I think it comes through.
Yeah, I mean, I think you'd be hard-pressed to find a Kiss fan who isn't Australian who doesn't consider this a step down for the band. Like, even people who like this album, I think it's definitely clear that Kiss is moving in a downward direction, unless you're Steve. In which case you're like, yeah, finally hitting their stride. They're finally doing it right.
To be fair, Dynasty was better than this one, but this is, they're in their stride. They stumble a little bit, but they're. I assume they'll pick up, and I guess they're doing their weird concept album next. So yeah, they're right in their golden age.
Yeah. So folks, we don't know what the next episode on the podcast is as we record these in advance and have a back catalog that confuses me, and I don't know the order in which they're coming out. But the next Kiss album we're doing is Music from the Elder, my favorite Kiss album. So be prepared for an epic podcast of ridiculous proportions. Julian, you wrote the book on the Elder. What is the plot in your summation of that album?
Well, to be fair, Tim McFate wrote the book on the Elder, and I just ghosted for Ace Frehley on the book.
You wrote the clip notes?
Essentially, yeah. I just did a little bit of the connective stuff. It was primarily Tim who did the interviews. The Elder. Oh my God, do I really want to go there on a Sunday afternoon?
we were all taking it easy, Greg.
A very brief synopsis of the plot.
Okay, a band is lost and desperate because Unmasked didn't do as well as they had hoped. They're losing members left and right, so they go and get back with the guy who helped them once. It didn't quite work out. There are violins, there are crumb horns, there's desperation. It really is, a Jackie Collins novel.
It's a real hero's journey with the call to adventure in the form of band members leaving and the wise mentor in terms of whoever they had come in to help them write or produce it or whatever you just
Bob
alluded to.
Ezrin, the wall.
Oh.
He came right off the wall to the Elder.
Oh.
He listened to their demos like, man, fuck this shit. Let's do a concept album instead.
Did he die, thus inspiring them to finally face the bad guy?
No, he just did a lot of cocaine.
Oh.
If only we had a drop.
Understood that reference.
If only we had a drop that referenced cocaine somewhere. All right, we've got to practice using those drops a bit more.
And that one was the Elder. That last sound drop, that is totally.
We all just listened to the entirety of the Elder. This song's going to get. This episode's going to get content ID'd and pulled down immediately.
That was the Elder in one long snort.
Well, that is our show, ladies and gentlemen. Julian, where can we find you? What book do you want to plug on this episode?
None. I don't want to be found. Actually, if you have to, come over to the KissFAQ.com, and we've got a message board known as the Cesspit, which all people are welcome to participate in.
And we are Lipstick. You can find us at lipstickgeneration.com. If you want to support the podcast, buy a t-shirt. If you want to support us artistically, buy a CD. Yeah, that's about it. All right, I'm Steve. I'm going to let you close us out with the best drop ever.
I'm done talking about this crappy song.
All right, bye. Julian, thanks for being on the show.
Julian.
Those drops, those are going to be, you guys are going to have too much fun with those.
Right?
Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth?
I don't know, there's not a lot of context where we can use that where I don't look like an asshole.